What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, and we had not really a doubleheader, kind of like two games going on at the same time. Some split squad action, spring training. Yankees came away with a win in both of those games. Not that spring training wins and losses matter, but there was a lot of good to see on the field for the Yankees today. I was fortunate enough to be able to catch the Braves game, and Nick was fortunate enough to catch the Blue Jays game. I was very impressed by what I saw today from certain guys. Before I get into things, because this is going to be a really fun episode. Nick, how are you doing today, my friend? I know that you got to see Big Cheese get a couple knocks today, so I know you're excited to talk about Yankee baseball. But how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. Like you said, lots of good, lots of positives from today's games. There was only literally, I think, one negative across the board for two games, and that was Matt Bowman, who will probably be sent to the moon after this game. But no one's really watching spring training games to see how good Matt Bowman looks, so it's okay. Other than that, the narrative ball today was going wild. Like every player we like and we talked about here on the channel, your boy Andre Chaparro, my boy Elijah Dunham, everyone was doing their job today. There was just an offensive explosion. They had 16 runs between the two games?
Yeah, not only that, I know that there were more runs scored in that Blue Jays-Yankees game with a 9-5 finish, but the Yankees nearly no-hit the Braves. Obviously, you're not going to sit here and say because the Yankees almost no-hit the Braves, like the Braves are not good or the Yankees pitching staff's like the greatest of all time. But, we got to see Clark Schmidt start today, and he showed off that new cutter. Dude, that cutter is nasty. It's sitting, 92 miles an hour. It's got good cutting action. It was able to help him get a bunch of strikeouts and called strikes. He struck out 5 batters of the 6 he faced today and then got a soft contact on the other one. I think it was a ground ball. So, I think that the cutter was – that was a pitch that they were hyping up a lot. They were talking about the cutter as soon as camp started. Look at this cutter. This cutter's so good. It's such a good pitch. It lived up to that hype, right? It lived up to those expectations in my mind. It was just as good as advertised. That pitch is money. That pitch might win him that 5th starting job. That's how good of a pitch it is. And it's kind of made the 4-seam fastball obsolete. And if anyone's followed Clark Schmidt, if anyone's looked at the trends with Clark Schmidt, his biggest problem is his fastballs. He never really had a really good fastball. His 4-seam fastball is atrocious. And kind of being able to scrap it or just kind of put it on the back burner and throw the cutter more against lefties, that's going to go a long way for getting swings and misses, getting called strikes, getting soft contact. I was thoroughly impressed with Clark Schmidt today.
Yeah, he threw it like 35% of the time today as well. So he was getting a ton of usage out of it, and it's good to see that because, anytime you learn a new pitch or you're implementing a new pitch in the arsenal, you're going to want to test it out as much as you can in spring. What better time to test it out than when the games don't really matter? So I was very happy with Clark today. In the Blue Jays game, Johnny Brito had a great start as well. Both innings, he gave up leadoff doubles in the innings, and then he just worked around the trouble. So got to give him a lot of credit for showing some grit and resiliency there. He struck out 2 guys in 2 innings, was touching 96 with his fastball. We also, in that game, got to see Drew Thorpe pitch, which is great. He looked really solid. I was very impressed with DeMarcus Evans as well, who came in and threw an inning of baseball. Has a great sweeping, almost 12-6 curveball. That's like 76, 77 miles an hour. He was on his A game. So all in all, dude, I think that just across both games, it was just really impressive to see a lot of these young guys do their thing. And some of the older guys that are trying to potentially play for a roster spot, like Willie Calhoun, had a really great day today as well. Calhoun went 2 for 3 with a double and 2 RBIs. He also made a nice little play out there in left field. That's the thing. We know Willie Calhoun can hit the baseball. That's not the problem. The problem is, can Willie Calhoun really do anything else? So hopefully this spring he can kind of keep tying it together and stringing together some good performances and maybe nab that 4th outfield spot or DH backup spot, whatever.
Yeah, and, again, the veterans today I think look really good. We saw a lot of really good young arms today, on top of not just Clark Schmidt, who I talked about. Davy Garcia looked good today.
He did. 5 Ks as well. Didn't he have 5 Ks too in 2 innings?
No, I think that was Schmidt. I think he had 2 strikeouts in 2 innings with a walk. We got to see Albert Abreu pitch a scoreless inning, and then we got to see 2 guys who pitched on the Somerset Patriots who were both part of that championship team. One of them from the Joey Gallo trade in Clayton Beater, who struck out 3 guys with 2 walks over 2 innings. He was throwing some high-octane gas. He looked great. And Will Warren, I know he didn't have any strikeouts. He gave up a hit, and he had no walks. I'm pretty sure it was all ground balls for the contact. His movement is, he has 2 elite pitches in that sinker and that slider. The sweeping slider is, it's incredible. It's a mid-80s slider with incredible sweep. You typically don't see that, right? That's not normal. You don't see, it's classified as a sweeper. StatCast has changed the slider, the way they label sliders now is completely different than they do before. They have specific sweepers. 85.4 miles an hour, averaging, 16 to 17 inches of horizontal sweep, sometimes in some cases over 18 inches. He looked great. The sinker kind of has similar movement, but just in the opposite direction. So I think he looked really impressive. I think he looks like a guy you can say, this might be the best pitching prospect in the Yankee system, and it's not because the system's weak, but because this guy's really good. But I think one player that we saw in today's game against the Blue Jays, we cannot go without talking about him. There's no way we can avoid it. Anthony Volpe looked incredible today. Anthony Volpe looked every part as good as you could imagine. He was polished. He had made, solid contact. He was putting the ball in play. He was stealing bases. I think he just looked so refined. He looked so, how do I put it? He looked so professional and so prepared. And, I was anticipating for him, not saying that this game reflects and that means that reflects on his ability to be a major leaguer right now, but it does show us that there's a lot of really polished aspects to his game, right? Yeah. They pitched out on him, and he still stole second, and it wasn't even close. There wasn't a question he was going to get there in time.
No. Nick, and then the next pitch after, he stole third.
Yeah, Nick, you got to see him play today. I mean, what would you say, how would you describe how Volpe played today? What makes you excited for Anthony Volpe going forward, either whether it's breaking with the team in camp or potentially getting, his feet more wet in AAA?
I mean, the biggest thing that pops off the page to me is that he just plays the game like a kid. He plays it like it's a child's game, and he's just out there to have fun, and the results will come as they may. You don't really see him out there pressing. It doesn't look like he's trying to do too much. He's not trying to always send one into the seats. He's just basically looking for his pitch, being aggressive, and trying to get on base any way possible. And we saw that today. I mean, the problem is that you got Oswald Peraza, who also went 1 for 2 today with a walk, and he's still also playing quite well. So now you have all this hype behind Volpe. You've got all this hype behind Peraza. That, I'm not going to say I feel bad for IKF because, at the end of the day, when you lose your job to better players, that's the nature of the sport. But it's like IKF, if he gets even so 1 or 2 starts to begin the season, people are going to riot. Look at how much talent this Yankee system has. Even Trey Sweeney hit a double today. Second base prospect Jesus Bastidas hit an absolute tank shot today. He went back-to-back with Carlos Narvaez, or maybe it was Christian Narvaez.
I think it's Carlos. Yeah, no, you got it right.
Carlos Narvaez. They both did the back-to-back, and that was sick. And then right after that, there's another base hit right after that. I think it was Volpe got a single right after Bastidas' home run. So the boys are out swinging, and they're actually trying to play for a spot, and it's nice to see because it's very refreshing. I mean, the stars of today's games were all young guys. You take away Willie Calhoun's solid performance, and everyone else really – Gleyber Torres had 2 base hits again, but Gleyber Torres is what we're expecting to see this from. No one's expecting Jesus Bastidas to hit no-doubt home runs where the left fielder doesn't even move on him. But that's what I loved about watching the game today. Volpe, again, everything he did right. He also made some nice plays at shortstop as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. The Yankees kind of they had some bombs today. The ones hit by Narvaez and by Bastidas were long gone. The one hit by Andre Chaparro was, that ball was nuked. 107 mile. We finally got the exit velocity on it. 106.7 miles an hour. That's some really good exit velo. That's definitely gonna impress people. Another guy who's kind of hitting the ball pretty hard today, your boy Elijah Dunham, right? He had 2 balls hit over 100 miles an hour today. One at 102.1, that was a ground out. The other one, 103 miles an hour for a single. This is a guy who, you don't look at for great raw power, but, there are a lot of guys who can build raw power through the minor leagues and kind of, get a little bit stronger, whatever it may be.
They're pulled everything today, too.
Right. Exactly.
Everything was pulled right, and he got one right through the shift, even though there's no shift. They're the new shift era where they're still standing on one side of the infield deep back. Yeah, it's like a drift, I guess, is what someone called it. I think it was the Blue Jays announcer called it the drift instead of the shift. And then he also made a great play in right field today too. He had a play where it was hit out to right field, and he was backtracking. Then he got twisted around and had to dive out and catch it. He played really well. He was also trying to steal bases as well, but. That one inning against Julian Fernandez, where he walked 3 guys in a row. Dunham was trying to steal a bag, and he just ended up getting a waltz into second base anyways. It was a great day for the narratives. Just a great day for the narratives.
Absolutely.
The Chappie bomb was insane. Again, the pure torque he swings the bat with is just so much untapped power. And it's hey, you give this guy a couple of at-bats at the major league level, he's going to reward you. Same with Dunham. Our guy, Brendan Lockridge, also hit a 2-run triple today. We got to meet him last year at the Somerset Patriots Creator Night with Eli Fishman. He had a good game. Like, everyone that played, I feel like did something. There's maybe a couple of guys that are like, oh, like, there's no real, like, production. But for the most part, everyone got involved. Like, there's so many hits in the game today against the Blue Jays. 16 hits for the Yankees against the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and, a big thing about this with the Yankees is, we're early in spring training. You're not looking for guys to have insane command on day one, right? Yeah. We saw some of that game with the Phillies, right? There were a lot of guys who their stuff was there. It was nasty. The command just wasn't there yet. But I feel like today was like, it was not like, dude, a lot of these pitchers looked like they were, like, Clark Schmidt looked like he had been throwing for a while, right? Yeah. Brito, I know, threw in the Winter League, so I'm not too, like, not saying I'm not too impressed. I'm not too, like, surprised that he looked the way he did. He also
slider looked great too.
Right, he added some mileage on the slider. I wrote about this in an article, talking about Brito, where his slider velocity, it's not a sweeping slider. So for it not to have not have a lot of movement is not great if it's being thrown in the low 80s. He bumped up the velo on that today. It was, in the high mid 80s. I think that's going to be good for him going forward. He gave up a couple of hits, but he didn't give up any runs. He held it down. He got a few strikeouts. The changeup is his money pitch. That's the pitch he's always going to really be rocking with. I'm personally, I view him as someone who's going to be a pretty good depth starter for this team. Yeah, his velocity is impressive. The velocity is really impressive out of camp for a lot of these guys. So I'm really excited to see Brito.
I know the first appearance from Vasquez. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
The first appearance from Vasquez wasn't great by him. I mean, we had the Vasquez-Mauricio little tandem going there in spring training, which is what makes spring fun, too. Can't do that in a regular game. I'm sure everyone should know that. And if you didn't know that, now you do. But that was pretty funny to see. And I think once he pitches more and gets a little bit more innings on his arm, he'll kind of come around and we'll see more of what makes him so touted. But I think he and Brito are in that same breath together. Like, I think they're two guys that could be easy depth pieces for starting if we need spot starts. They could also be just good guys that we could bring up in potential long relief roles. Like, it's so annoying because I know the Yankees are going to roll with Domingo Germán, and for whatever reason, there's a lot of fans out there that think Domingo Germán is really good. So it's like, all right, well, I guess we can have Domingo. But at this point, Domingo Germán is fighting for a spot more than a lot of people want to give him credit for. Like, he's not just going to be handed that fifth starter spot, nor will he just be handed the long relief spot in the bullpen. He's got to earn it just like everyone else. And Clark Schmidt today came out with a statement. He walked out there in the first round and threw a couple of uppercuts. And now we got to see what Domingo can respond with.
Oh, yeah. No, the Yankees, I mean, Clark Schmidt today, I'm sorry, like, if this, like, the way I was already, my opinion coming into camp was that Clark Schmidt was a better pitcher. The way he looked today, it is really hard for me to sit here and tell someone that there is someone that Domingo Germán should be put in the rotation over him. His stuff today was really
crazy if they did it. If he pitches like this all spring, especially, like, I know he's not going to throw like shutout the entire. Well, he actually may. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how many innings he gets. But if Clark Schmidt logs say 9, 12 innings this spring, and he gives up like 1 run, there should be no question in the Yankees' mind as to who their fifth starter is, because it's right there, staring them in the face, with a new cutter that he's going to throw at least a third of the time.
Yeah, and, the cutter was, I mean, the way it was located and used too, he missed a few times with it, out of the zone, whatever, but when he threw that pitch in the zone, it was getting called strikes. Guys were swinging at it, and that's kind of the point of this pitch. It's supposed to be there for guys to swing at it, right? I don't think people realize that, not that I don't think people realize, but when Clark Schmidt's adding a cutter to his repertoire, it's not just a matter of trying to get a good pitch. It's not a matter of just, you want a pitch to improve things that you don't do well. One of those things Clark Schmidt doesn't do well is getting chases. Clark Schmidt doesn't get guys to expand from their strike zone very much because of that, because of the fact that he has a lot of movement, east and west. You kind of see a little bit of a different shape on the slider too. I don't know if you noticed this. He cut down some of the horizontal movement on it. I don't know if he's going to go with the curveball as more of the sweepy pitch, that has a lot of more that horizontal movement, and then the slider is a little bit more of a hybrid between a sweeper and a hard slider. That might work for him a little bit more just for getting out of zone swings. Quite frankly, I mean, he just looked really damn good today. And again, the contact against him, I mean, it was one batted ball. Like, guys just weren't, they couldn't touch him today.
No, it was just overall, like, I think it was, if the Yankees have baseball, if this is a regular season game today worth of a day, not just the fact that we wouldn't have a doubleheader. Well, actually, we may have a doubleheader this year at some point. Who knows? You know how baseball goes, rainouts, all that shit. But if we had a day like today in a regular season game, it would be the talk of the town. I mean, it was arguably perfect baseball from the Yankees today. And that's what I love to see. I mean, the guys that were performing today were guys that we all were, like, excited to see this spring. Volpe, Chaparro, Dominguez yesterday. Peraza did well today. Glaber's been on one to start this already. Dunham, we got Lockridge that did well. Jose Trevino hit a grand slam. So, like, all the guys that we love did their job. And that's kind of the great thing. It's just perfect for narrative ball, dude. Can't make it up.
The best way to summarize this on my end, because this is kind of there's so much good I can say, but I don't want to sit here for an hour telling people how because I could sit here for 2 hours talking about how good today was for the Yankees in terms of how guys looked and all that stuff. But my final thoughts, really, the boys were bopping today. The boys were bopping. The boys went out there and they bopped. And they bopped in Dunedin. They bopped on George Steinbrenner Field. They bopped. The boys were bopping today. And as you mentioned, Peraza and Volpe, man, if these two, I want these two to just fight it out for that shortstop job. These two kids are really, I mean, Peraza didn't have as impressive a day as Volpe in terms of the stat sheet, but the walk he worked today, getting a single, like, he played just really good baseball, right? And that's kind of what I'm looking for Peraza. You know, I don't think he's going to blow me up on the stat sheet. I don't think he's going to blow me away with the WRC plus or blow me away in the slugging department or the OBP department or whatever it may be. I just need him to be pretty good. And the defense and the base running will handle most of the value.
Yeah.
If he's just solid, be like a solid 7th or 8th hitter in a lineup and give me the defense and base running, I want you there. And Volpe, we finally got to see him at the leadoff spot. Volpe's a leadoff hitter. Volpe's a leadoff hitter in this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for how he approaches the plate. Like, he goes up there looking to swing and be aggressive. I do think he's going to have good splits in terms of his walk, strikeout numbers. But what I like about him is that he reminds me of Gleyber Torres in the way that he goes up there and he's trying to be active early on, not let the pitcher establish a rhythm. And with the pitch clock, it's an even better strategy to go up there and hit like that. So, I mean, the first pitch of the game today, he hit a 107-mile-an-hour line out. So it's like, well, that's good. That's what you want to see. You don't want the pitcher to settle in and get something rolling. You want the batter to take the advantage and have the upper hand. So Volpe seems to be doing that already. And he's done that for a while. The only thing that we've talked about this a lot in the past, some episodes with Alex especially, he mentioned this, that Volpe is a bit of a slow starter out of the gate for the regular season. Happened in AA and in AAA when he was up in AAA last year. But when it comes around, he comes around. So if this year he can start hot in spring and carry that over to the regular season, who knows? Maybe he nabs the spot right out of the gate. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah, and, you know, a big thing, too, with his performance today, he was hitting the ball hard. Right?
Yeah.
You know, not saying that Anthony Volpe has no power, but a criticism of Anthony Volpe in the minor league level has been the raw power. The raw power maybe isn't there. 106.4 miles an hour, 105.9 miles an hour, 98.7 miles an hour, 92.8 miles an hour. That's hitting the ball pretty damn hard. I don't know if he's added any muscle over the offseason. I don't know if he'll hit a new max exit velocity this spring training. It's certainly possible. If this, I hope people understand, you know, he topped out last year at 107.6 in max exit velocity. He reached 106.5 in his first game of spring training, facing a guy, and it's not like he hit it off of someone who hasn't pitched to major league level. If I'm not mistaken, that was hit off of of either Nate Pearson, Luke Bard. It was all these guys have all pitched to major league level. Meza, Romano, Pearson, Bard, Fernandez, Peacock. Both Fernandez. I don't know if Julian Fernandez
he hit the 106 line out off of Meza, and then he hit the other base hit. I believe it was actually, let me see here.
Yeah, the 106.4 was against Pearson. Pearson, I'm not saying Pearson's a good major league pitcher.
Oh, no, he had the line out, too, against Meza.
Yeah,
that was 106 off the bat.
Those are major league pitchers. All the guys he faced today
Pearson was pumping a hundo up there today, too.
Right. This is what good. This is not like, it's not like he's facing, you can't sit here and say, oh, well, you know, you can't get that impressed by Volpe hitting the ball hard. He's not facing anyone who's like major league caliber. We saw this with Dominguez, where it was like, Dominguez, yeah, he may have the hardest hit home run from any like anyone under 21 since Juan Soto did it in the World Series in 2019, but he hit it off of a double-A guy, so who cares? Exit velocity, that exit velocity is exit velocity. If you can hit a ball 107 miles an hour for a guy in double-A, you probably could do it off a guy at the major league level. We're talking about play discipline, those are different things, but Volpe just looked so good today. So
I mean, Vlad Guerrero's home run off of Matt Bowman's soft toss bullpen session was 107 off the bat. And all the Blue Jays fans were like going crazy over how like massive of a shot it was. But then Volpe hits 107 off of an actual major league reliever who's pitched in the past 2 years. And it's whatever. Come on.
Yeah, no. You know, I'm not saying this to say that you should look at spring training stats, like how many your OPS in spring training, and say this. No,
you want to see it's all about the process more than the results of spring training.
I think you put it perfectly. More than at any point in the season, how you get to that OPS, how you get to your ERA, what your stuff looks like, what are your exit velocity numbers, all of that stuff. That all matters so much more in spring training than the actual results do. The Yankees can win 5 games all of spring training if the stuff looks good, if the way they lost games was guys from single A and non-roster invites coming in and blowing the game. Don't care. Not saying I don't care about those guys in general. I like seeing them play, but it's not reflective on the major league team's talent. You know what I mean? And another thing too is health. As long as these guys stay healthy, that's what you really care about at the end of the day. End of the day, you just care that tomorrow Clark Schmidt wakes up and he's like, I feel great today. I feel great. That's what you want. That's
a win.
That matters just as much as Clark Schmidt struck out 5 guys today, right? Because at the end of the day, it means nothing that Clark Schmidt has a new cutter if I don't have him on opening day. You know what I'm saying? It means nothing to me or not that it means nothing, but it doesn't mean as much. You know what I mean? It doesn't impact the team as much. It doesn't, how can you, we've seen it with Glaber, right? 2017 was supposed to come up. He got Tommy John surgery. That is the reason why he didn't come up in 2017, right? And, that could have helped the Yankees in what was an ALCS that was decided by a Game 7. Anthony Volpe being healthy, playing at this level, showing off his athleticism, it's going to go a long way for this team. And I'm excited to see how he continues to play in spring training. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope to see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Yankees. Make sure to check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course our YouTube page. You can check out Empire Sports Media for all your New York sports content. I know we got a bunch of banger articles coming out every single day. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.